Hi, this is Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today we are going to make this gorgeous daisy granny square blanket. This is a great pattern for joining small granny squares up with larger ones. I'll show you exactly how to do it. To make this blanket the same size as mine, you will need 24 small daisy granny squares and 6 large daisy granny squares. The tutorial for the small granny squares is linked down below, and to make the large squares, just do 2 rows of the green, 3 rows of the lighter shade, and 5 rows of the darkest shade. Of course, you can use any color combination that you like, and you can also make your blanket any size that you like. My blanket measures 42 inches wide by 54 inches tall. That's 107 centimeters by 137 centimeters. If you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, it's available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to be able to read patterns. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. In this easy step-by-step crochet tutorial, you'll learn how to join as you go, join on 2 sides, 3 sides, and 4 sides. You'll join into a completed corner, continuous join as you go, and also how to edge your blanket so any border you put on will lay perfectly flat. To make the Daisy Granny Square blanket, I used 4 worsted weight acrylic. I used these 5 colors here. This is Favorite from Ice Yarns, but you can use any yarn you have at all. 5 different colors. I used just a little bit of the yellow, maybe 50 grams. I used 100 grams of the green, 200 grams of the lavender or the lilac color here, and 300 grams of the dark purple, and about 500 grams of the white. I used a 6mm crochet hook. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a needle for sewing in your ends. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back to the section you're working on, and let's get started. To start making your daisy square granny blanket, we're going to start by turning our 4 small squares into 1 big square. So you're going to need the same hook you used for your blocks and whatever color yarn you are joining. I'm going to show you how to join your small blocks into the large block with continuous join as you go. I really suggest you try this method. There's only going to be 2 ends to sew in when we're finished. And it goes really, really quick. So we're just going to be following the direction of this yarn. That is how we're going to be connecting our blocks continuously. So we have less tails to sew in. If you would like to join your squares with join as you go, but just 1 block at a time, you can follow that video up there. But I really suggest giving this method a try. You can totally do it. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. So let's get started. So get your 2 squares in front of you, grab your hook and your yarn. We're going to start in this corner right here. I'm just going to do a row of granny stitches all the way across. So put your hook into that corner, just into the space, a loop of yarn on your hook, bring it through, and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail. You can hold it along the edge of your work. We can work over it for the next 2 stitches. And chain 2. 1 and 2. Into that corner space, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Drop your tail, and now into each space all the way along our square, 3 double crochets. So same as we're doing for our granny squares. Nothing new yet. So 3 double crochets into each space all the way along the one side of your very first square. So you can pause the video and just keep working along. I'll meet you at our first corner. 3 double crochets into our corner space. 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm going to go straight over into my next block. No chaining. I want a nice tight join between our squares. So just wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets straight into the next block. Just that same corner space we would always be working into. 3 double crochets. And you can let your old block just hang there. You don't have to touch it anymore. It helps to work on a desk or a table, or even your lap is fine. And now 3 double crochets into each space along this square, and I will meet you at your corner. Into our corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to work around this block, so turn your work, and we're going to finish this block here. This one here, we're going to go all the way around. So chain 2 and finish this corner, so 3 more double crochets into that same corner space. Now you can pause the video and keep working around this entire block. 3 double crochets into each space, and corners the same as you did for your granny square. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets into that corner space. So do that all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get over here. Now when you get to your corner, take a look at your other block and make sure your daisy is the right side up. Mine is the wrong side up. My cute petals are on the other side. So make sure we're not twisted around when we get to this stage. We want our stitches to be facing the same direction for our very first row where we started down here. Now into this corner space, I'm going to finish my corner, so 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And now I'm going to slip stitch in between these stitches right here. So right where my thumb is, I'm just going to slip stitch. 1 slip stitch in between those other shells, and chain 1. So we have finished our 1 square. Now we're going to let this square hang, and we're going to work on our other square, making sure that your petals are facing up and you're working into the front of your square. Now we're going to finish this corner. So 3 double crochets into that corner space. 1, 2, and 3. So now we're going to start joining our new block to our finished block. So put your finished block above and have the block you're working on closest to you. So we've done our 3 double crochets into that corner stitch. We're going to slip stitch into the old block, into the block we finished. So just put your hook down in between those stitches, down into your work. Bring your yarn up any which way, up and through, and slip stitch. Wrap your yarn. Now we're going to go straight in and do our 3 double crochets into our block that we're working on. So 3 double crochets into the next space of the block we're working on. There's 2. Here is 3. Working on a table or a flat surface really helps. So if you're having a hard time, try using a flat surface. And put your hook down into the space between the next shells, the next granny stitches. Hook down, grab your yarn, bringing it up, turn your hook, and slip stitch. Right into the next space, 3 double crochets on the block you're working on. 1, 2, and 3. Get yourself situated. Find the next space in between those double crochets. Put your hook down into your work. Hook your yarn, grab your yarn, bring it up and through, and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the next space. 1, 2, and 3. Look for the next space of the granny square you have finished. Hook down into your work. Grab your yarn and bring it through, and slip stitch to join. 3 double crochets into the next space on the block you're working on. 1, 2, and 3. Put your hook down into the block you have finished, into the space. Grab your yarn and bring it through, and slip stitch with both strands to join. And into the next space on the square you're working on, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the block you have finished, put your hook down into that space and slip stitch to join. So grab your yarn and bring it up and slip stitch. Wrap your yarn into your corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, and into your corner slip stitch, just into that corner space, slip stitch and chain 1. Now rotate your work a little bit. We're going to finish off this one side of our block, so just all of these stitches along the one side. So 3 double crochets into your corner to finish that off. 1, 2, and 3, and into each space along the side, 3 double crochets into each space. So pause the video and finish off this side, 3 double crochets into each space. Have you subscribed to this channel? Go ahead and hit this button under this video right now so you don't miss out on any more fun stuff just like this. So 3 double crochets into that corner space. So now we're ready to add our next 2 blocks or start our second row. So we're going to start by working into this space of the granny square right above. So wrap your yarn and into that corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to put the work we finished. We always want our finished work on top. So just rotate our finished work above us. So now we're joining this block to our finished block right here. So I've done my 3 double crochets into that corner space. So I'm going to look for the matching space on the block above and slip stitch to join. 1 slip stitch. Wrap your yarn into the next space on the block we're joining, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the next space, slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the space on the block we are joining. 1, 2, and 3. You can lay all your blocks out flat again so you can see a little easier where to go. And into that next space, put your hook down into your work, bring your yarn up, and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And into this next space, slip stitch to join. So hook down into your work, bring your yarn up, and slip stitch. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the next space on the block we are joining. There's 1, 2, and 3. Get your blocks all situated so you can see. I lay them down nice and flat in between my joins. You can pull your work back just to make sure you're not skipping any of these shells or granny stitches. Into the next space, 1 slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the next space on the block we are joining. There's 2. There's 3. Get your blocks laying nice and flat again. Look for the next space, so pull your work back so you can see that next space right here. And 1 slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn into our corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to join in our corner. We want to join kitty corner. So from this corner here, we want to join into this block. So from this corner, we want to slip stitch into this next corner, the opposite corner. So slip stitch into the opposite corner space to join. And that finishes this block here for now. We want to get our next block and join this. So we're just joining on the one side, same as we did before, but now we're doing join as you go. So now we're going to join into this corner space right here and join one side of the next block. So wrap your yarn and into that corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Pull your work back so you can see that next space right here and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the next space. 1, 2, and 3. Lay everything flat, look for that next space, slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets into the next space of the block you are joining. There's 1, 2, here's 3. Into the next space, slip stitch to join. Into the next space of the block you're joining, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Lay your blocks all out nice and flat. Look for your next space in between those stitches and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the next space of the block you are joining. It's 1, 2, and 3. Into the next space on the block you have finished, slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets into the next space of the block we are joining. 1, 2, and 3. Into the space, slip stitch to join on the block you have finished. Wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets into our corner space. 1, 2, and 3. Into our corner space, slip stitch to join, and chain 1. So we've joined the second row just on the one side. Now we're going to rotate our work. So now this block here, the one we are working on, we're going to work all the way around on all 3 sides. So finish this corner with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now pause the video and keep working around this square on all 3 sides. I'll meet you when we get down to where our join is going to be. When you get to that corner, we need to do our 3 double crochets to finish this corner space. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to slip stitch kitty corner. So from where we are, we're going to jump across to the opposite side. So find that corner space right there in between those stitches, and we're going to slip stitch to join. So you might want to turn your work a little bit because we're going to start working on this other side. So when I do my slip stitch, I get myself almost ready to start that side. So my hook's down, I just have to slip stitch and chain 1 to give ourselves a little bit of space. And I'm going to finish this new corner right here with 3 double crochets. So I'm not going to check my join or anything until I've finished these 3 double crochets. I don't want to get confused on where I'm going. So there's our cute little join. And now we're just going to work along this side, joining the block we're working on to the block we have finished. So put your hook down into that first space, bring your yarn up, and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the block we're working on. 1, 2, and 3. And you can see I'm not holding up my work or anything. I'm using a table or a desk or even your knees. If you put your knees up in bed, you can do it that way too. Put your hook down into that next space of the block you finished and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the block you're working on. 1, 2, and 3. Into the next space, slip stitch to join. And into the block you're working on, 3 double crochets into the next space. There's 1, 2, and 3. Into the next space, slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn and into the next space of the block you're working on, 3 double crochets. 2 and 3. Into the next space of the block you finished, slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the next space of the block you're working on. 1, 2, and 3. Slip stitch into the next space of the block you have finished. 1 slip stitch to join. And into your corner, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the corner space of the block you finished, slip stitch to join, and chain 1. So now we just get to finish these 2 sides. So rotate your work so we can finish this top side. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into that same corner space. 1, 2, and 3. And I'll pause the video and work along finishing this side and starting this side, and I'll meet you back when we are right here. When we get to our join, 3 double crochets to finish that corner. 1, 2, and 3. Into the corner space in between those 2 blocks, 1 slip stitch, and chain 1. Wrap your yarn and into that next corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now you can pause the video and just finish this side, 3 double crochets into each space, and I'll meet you at the corner. Into that corner space, 3 double crochets to finish the corner. 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, 1 and 2. And now we're going to slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 to join. So top of the chain 3 is right there. We want to get 2 strands of that stitch on the top of our hook. So just poke your hook in, 2 strands on the top of your hook, and slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And there is your joined block. All you have to do is sew in your 2 tails and you're finished. So now go ahead and repeat this, making all of your small blocks into big blocks. So once all your blocks are joined up, we are ready to make our blanket. When you've made all of your blocks, lay them all out so you can see your pattern and you'll know which blocks to pick up and join as you go. Depending on how many sides we're going to be joining, we want to do our empty sides first. So if we're joining on 3 sides, I want to finish this one side first. If you're only going to be joining on 2 sides, then you're going to finish 2 sides of your square first. So I'm going to be showing you how to join on 3 sides. So I'm just going to be doing 1 side. So I'm going to meet you when we get to this corner. So I finished my 1 side. I'm just going to rotate my work. Make sure that your daisy flowers are facing up, that the texture's on this one side. Get the block you're joining to, your completed block, up above you. So I've done my 3 double crochets into that corner space. Now I'm going to slip stitch down into the work I have finished, so down into the corner of the work I have finished. Hook down, yarn up, and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn and into the same corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Pull your hook towards you so you can see your stitches up above of the block we have completed. Put your hook down into that next space. Bring your yarn back up and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the next space on the block we are joining. 1, 2, and 3. Look for that next space in the block we have finished. Put your hook down, bring your yarn up, and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Down into your work, into the next space, slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn, 3 double crochets into the block you are working on. 1, 2, and 3. Get your hook out of the way so you can see your next space and slip stitch into that space to join. Wrap your yarn into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the space, slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the next space of the block you have finished, slip stitch to join. 3 double crochets into your next space on the block you're working on. 1, 2, and 3. Now into this center join, we're just going to find that space in between our blocks. So just put your hook down into that space and make 1 slip stitch. Just like that. And now keep going 3 double crochets into each space. 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into the block you have finished. Just like that. Wrap your yarn 3 double crochets into the block we are working on. 1, 2, and 3. Into the space on the block we are joining to, 1 slip stitch to join. 3 double crochets into the block we are working on. 1, 2, and 3. Into the block we have finished, slip stitch to join into that next space. Into the block we are joining, 3 double crochets into the next space. 1, 2, and 3. Into the block we finished, slip stitch to join into that next space. Wrap your yarn 3 double crochets into the block we are joining. 1, 2, and 3. Slip stitch into the block we finished into that next space to join, and 3 double crochets into the block we're joining. 1, 2, and 3. Into the block we have finished, slip stitch into that space to join. And into our corner space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into that corner, slip stitch to join, just the corner space, slip stitch, chain 1, rotate your work, get your new block above you. We always want to be joining above. And now we're going to slip stitch into this corner space on the block we're joining to. So slip stitch into that space. Wrap your yarn and into that corner space on the block we're joining, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Slip stitch into that next space on the block you have finished. Slip stitch. And now we're going to do 3 double crochets into the next space with a slip stitch, 3 double crochets with a slip stitch, 3 double crochets with a slip stitch, all the way along until we get to this join here. So pause the video and work your way along, 3 double crochets with a slip stitch, and I'll meet you when we get to this join, just so we can do that join again together. Now into this center join, we're just going to find that space in between our blocks. So just put your hook down into that space and make 1 slip stitch. Wrap your yarn and now just keep going like usual, doing your 3 double crochets into the block you are joining. And a slip stitch into the block you have finished. So now pause the video and I'll meet you when we get to this corner. After my 3 double crochets into that corner space, slip stitch to join. So now you can pause the video and repeat what we just did on this side on the third side. Or if you're only joining on the 2 sides, you can just finish off your granny square. At the end of your row, right where we started, I've done my 3 double crochets into that corner space. So slip stitch into the corner to join, chain 1, and slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. Top of the chain 3, 2 strands of that stitch on the top of your hook, 1 slip stitch, chain 1 to secure your yarn, cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later, pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. So now we've joined our new block on 3 sides, and now I'll show you how to join in a corner. So go lay your big block that we just made, our 4 squares together, down with your other squares and see which next square you're going to join, and also grab whatever block is touching it. So we need our next block to join here, plus whatever's touching it, this block here. So now I'm going to be joining again on 3 sides, same as we did before, except I'll show you how to join into a corner that is finished. So pause the video, start your block on the one side completed just by itself, join on your second side, just like we've done before, and I'll show you how to do this join in a corner right here. So I've done my 3 double crochets into that corner space, and now we're just going to slip stitch kitty corner, just like we did with our smaller blocks. So just put your hook over, find that center space, that corner space, hook down, and slip stitch. You want to have some tension. These joins are where all of the tension is going to be, so we don't need it to be loose. And then rotate your work, and then keep going, just doing your regular 3 double crochets with a slip stitch to join. And now keep going, joining the rest of your sides. Depending on how big your blanket is, you might have some of these blocks where you have to join on all 4 sides. We're going to do it exactly the same as we have been doing, nothing new, except how we start. So I'm just going to show you how to start if you're joining on all 4 sides. Just for convenience, this is my big joined piece on this side. So I'm going to join these 2 sides last. I'm going to start right here, just so I have less blanket on my lap while I'm joining. So I'm going to start in this corner here and attach right here. Then I'm working around, doing my second loose square, and then I'm going to join all of this onto my big blanket piece. It doesn't totally matter which corner you start in, but if you save the big bulky part for last, it might be a little more pleasant. So I'm just going to pop in my hook and get myself situated. Now, instead of starting with a row of granny stitches for our outside round, we are just going to start straight away joining. So hook into that corner space, loop of yarn on your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both strands to join, drop your tail, just holding it along your work so we could work over it a little bit, and chain 2. 1 and 2. Now right here is where we have to slip stitch. So down into your work, grab your yarn and bring it up, and slip stitch to join. Wrap your yarn and 2 double crochets into this corner space. So that's going to start our corner. 1 and 2. So now keep going from here, joining as we always have been, and this block will join on all 4 sides. When all of your squares are joined up, you have made your blanket, it is time to make the edge the same thickness as our joins in the middle. So our joins are 2 rows. So we're going to put another row on the outside. I just want to show you how to navigate these join areas so that your stitch count remains perfect. Join your yarn in any corner space, just with a slip stitch as we always do, and chain 2. 1 and 2. 2 double crochets into that same space. So 3 double crochets into each space all the way along. You can pause the video and I will meet you when we get to our join. So the join counts as 3 stitches, so just 1 shell. So into our first corner before the join, we're going to do 1 double crochet, we're going to start our second double crochet, but we're not going to finish it. Into the same corner space, leave those 2 loops on your hook. Now we're going to start another double crochet into the corner space on the other side of the join. So wrap your yarn and start another double crochet. 3 loops on your hook, wrap your yarn and take off all 3 loops. And 1 more double crochet into that same corner space. So that is how we're going to do our joins. That is our 3 double crochets, or our 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and that's what we're going to do at every join. So pause the video and work ahead. I'll meet you at your next join. At every join, we have our 2 corners, one before the join and one after the join. Before the join, 1 double crochet that we finish. So 1 complete double crochet, and we're going to start a second double crochet into that first corner space, but leave it on your hook. Into the space after the join, we're going to start another double crochet. 3 loops on your hook. We're going to finish those together like that. And now wrap your yarn and 1 full double crochet, a complete double crochet, into that corner space after the join. So we're going to do this for every join, and that's how we keep the correct stitch count so your blanket doesn't go all wavy if you put on a border. So pause the video and keep working around, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, 3 double crochets into that last corner space. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Sew in your tails and you're finished. So I hope you enjoyed making this blanket as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in this video. Stay hooked.